Now his head shoots up. Rudnik! There's only like 9 horses in here. Hi, buddy. Well, that's good. At least you don't have as many horses to say goodbye to.
So this is definitely a video I was not expecting to have to make this year. And please also excuse my really deep voice. I am both stuffed up and 1 week away from my due date. So all of the lovely last-minute pregnancy symptoms have definitely hit hard.
Good boy.
Most of you have been with us since before Rudnik's move back in the summer. Some of you have just joined us on our adventures since Rudnik's move in the summer. But I definitely was not expecting to have to move him again before the end of the year, which unfortunately is what we're doing now.
Hi, buddy.
But I can promise you we have very good reason.
You're looking very dark.
So Rudnik has actually only been in his new spot for about 4 months now.
Hi, bud.
He's just finally started to settle in and make some friends with some of the other horses and kind of find his place among the herd that he's in now. So of course it breaks my heart a little bit that now that he's finally got some friends and found his place, he's having to be uprooted
Over
again.
here. See if there's a stall I can throw you in.
When I got to the farm today to get him all loaded up and packed up for his move, I did notice that the herd had shrunk quite a bit.
That's a tiny one.
And the paint that he had become quite close with and the mare that had attached herself to him were actually no longer in the pen with him. So thankfully that means that he's already become accustomed to no longer having his closest friends around him. But one thing I have noticed with Rudnik, and this has been the case since I adopted him at 11 months old, he really does not get herd bound and so attached to other horses that being separated from them causes him any sort of real stress. I've always noticed that he's been more concerned on whether me and my fiance are around or will be coming back around than whether or not his horsey friends are there. Of course, he makes friends and he has those connections, and horses, when they make those connections, it's usually for life. But I found with Rudnik, whether it's due to the rough start that he had or just how much he's had to move around in his life, he doesn't get so attached to other horses that he yells or calls for them once they've been separated. It's just kind of like an out of sight, out of mind thing for him. So moving him back in the summer, we originally left our previous boarding location that we had been at for nearly 4 years because the farmer who owned the property was no longer going to be offering board for the horses that were there. And even after he left his buddies of over 3 years, he really didn't show any signs of distress or really seeming to miss them much.
Okay, we gotta do a check. I think they've all actually built pretty well. Haven't seen anything new in a while. At least now that when you're with the girlies, you're going to be in your own pen. So you'll probably get some nit marks, but nothing really bad is what you're getting here. Okay?
Looks good now.
You're going to have 3 girls just to yourself.
So growing up, our horses were quite attached to each other, and we had 5 horses. Anytime one of them was removed from the pasture or paddock with the other horses, they would constantly be calling back to them, and their only priority was to get back to their friends. And Rudnik has just never been like that. So I've seen what it looks like when a horse is herd bound, and I can confidently say that Rudnik has never been herd bound like that, because once he rides away from his friends, it's like he doesn't look back, he doesn't really notice, he doesn't care. And so overall, I suppose that makes this entire process easier, but on the same note, I know that it is still stressful for him to have to be bounced around like this.
Get out of here, you little pigeons.
It's funny because like the wind would bug him, but having those ripping in and out above his head doesn't care. What are you gonna go to a new spot? You get your own shelter. All the girlies just for you.
Cat, Rudnik. Careful, buddy.
Unfortunately, in the area we live in, it's just our only option. We do not have the $1 million that would be required to buy a property with space for him. So especially right now while we're renting in the city, board is our only option. And so we kind of have to just go with boarding locations that work the best for our life, that are going to give him what he needs for his best life and enable us to kind of just continue on with things as usual. Now, this boarding spot we've been at since the end of August has been absolutely amazing, and Rudnik has done really well here. It did take him quite a while to settle in. He did end up with some bite marks just because of the size of the herd that he was constantly in the pastures with, but it has done him really good, and I noticed that he's been settling in better. So it really is unfortunate that now that he's started settling in, it's time to uproot him again. And I thought we were going to be here for a long time. I had no intention of moving him this quickly after he had just finally settled in. So life has kind of taken a few unexpected turns, and we have a lot of changes happening right now that just make a lot more sense for him to be moving to this new spot. Now, I know we're going to get a lot of criticism for this because it is sad to see him leave the horses that he's gotten close with over the last few months. But at the end of the day, what is important is that we're able to see Rudnik as often as possible. The main focus and priority here is that we are doing what is best for him and us in the long run. And while it doesn't always look that way to start, I can guarantee you, I can promise you that this is going to be such a good move for him. This location was easily a good 45-minute drive minimum, most likely closer to an hour in the winter months, to go out and see him when we wanted to. And being a week from my due date now, I knew that once baby is here, it was most likely a very good possibility that it would be at least a month before I'd get to see him again because of how far out he was. And like I said, Rudnik doesn't get herd bound to other horses. However, he is extremely attached to myself and my fiance, and it seems to cause him more distress when we don't get to see him as often as we want to. I've learned to just accept that you can't make everyone happy. And so by posting bits and pieces of our life online, I've come to expect that there's always going to be some form of criticism no matter what we do, no matter how amazing the decisions are that we're making. Someone's always going to have something to say about it. I've been told that pregnancy is not an excuse to go a week without seeing my horse, and that at that point I should just give him up. I've been told moving him from lush pasture to what he was on previously was abuse.
Good boy.
And I've just come to expect it. Now, that doesn't mean people have a right to be nasty, because they seem to think that just because we open our life up to the public, that gives them a right to have a nasty opinion and voice those opinions to us. There will always be so much more happening behind the scenes than anyone can ever see, and we're going to do what's best for us and our family, and opinions are just that. They're opinions.
Good boy, buddy.
There's some girls
Got some
over there?
girlies.
Oh.
Come on.
Oh, he's like, okay.
Yeah, I'm cool with this. Yeah.
He didn't tell me there was ladies.
Yeah. 3 ladies to himself.
The new location may not be fancy or glamorous, but it gives us everything we need. It's almost $200 a month cheaper than his last spot. And the best part is he is now only 20 minutes away from us, so I can come out and see him anytime that I want. In this new spot, he is one of
they're
only 4
excited,
horses, which I personally love. Smaller herds are just so much better in my opinion, and he is now the only boy with 3 girls. I don't think he's going to be complaining about that one. But he has his own private, huge paddock with a shelter, and while they're in the paddocks for most of the winter, during the spring, summer, and fall, they have access to nearly 20 acres of huge pasture that they'll be able to roam together. And again, I know that people will see the land that he's on and think that's a horrible place for a horse, but you have to remember, Rudnik is such an easy keeper that being on lush green grass is so detrimental to his health and could cause so many lifelong health problems.
You got your whole paddock.
He can't be on pasture all the time. So hay feeding him is really the best option for him, because it allows us to control what he's eating, the quality of what he's eating, and ensures that he's not eating too much. And because he has his own private paddock, he's going to be allowed to settle in without immediately being swarmed by the other horses.
Oh, look at him walking up.
Oh yeah. Got to impress the ladies. Are those girlies, Rudnik?
Once we've had a chance to see how he settles in, there is the option of opening all the paddocks up so that him and the girls are able to have so much more space and run around together. But for now, this allows him to settle in his own huge open space and gives him a chance to get familiar with the girls beside him without having to worry about them invading his space or anyone getting too nippy. I'm personally so excited about this move because having him only 20 minutes away now is going to be so much better through the winter, and especially when having a newborn, it's going to make it so much easier that we're not going out of the way to see him anymore, because the best part of this move is that he is now halfway between town and the home we just purchased.
You're so chill.
Now, this is not something we ever expected would happen, especially when we have a newborn on the way, but everything just worked out so perfectly that my fiance and I were actually able to purchase our very first home together, and we will be taking possession officially on February 3rd. So if we had left Rudnik at his previous location when moving into this new home, it would have been an hour and a half either way just to go out and see him. And with a newborn, like I said, that would have made it nearly impossible to see him any more than maybe once a month.
Well, buddy, what do you think? Now I get to see you all the time. You're not so far away now. Get to see you more. She wants to see you.
And because of the location where we purchased our home, it comes on 1/3 of an acre, but there could be a possibility of adding a couple acres to it in the future, which would be a perfect spot to eventually get to bring Rudnik home for good. And because his spot is exactly halfway between our new home and town, we will be able to stop in and see him anytime we want, anytime we're going to town, anytime we're coming from town. And it's just going to make it so much easier to make sure that he still gets the attention he needs.
Look at that. You got 2 girls just for you.
So overall, it's been a very bittersweet weekend because it was sad having to uproot Rudnik from the home that he had finally been settling into. But knowing that things are going to get better from here on, we have our own home finally, we have a newborn on the way, and Rudnik's only 20 minutes away from our door. It's going to be so much better for everyone all around. And of course, it'll take time for him to settle in, but I know he's going to be a lot happier getting to see us more often, especially once his new bestie makes his appearance.